Can a love story between a woman and a mythical creature truly be symbolic of a country's immigration policy? Yes. Guillermo del Toro's film, The Shape of Water, serves as a metaphorical representation of America's stance on immigration and its views on immigrants and diverse communities residing in America. So, how did we go from a film following the formation of love to a film that critiques the society in which the director lives in? Themes of otherness, resistance to oppression, and being overlooked are themes that arguably can be seen not only in this film, but films tackling the topic of immigration. So, just because this film has those themes, it's an allegory for immigration? Kinda. It's not just those themes, it's the characters we meet, what they represent, and how their characteristics reflect Del Toro's auteur style and overall message about immigration. Let's take a look at some examples of why The Shape of Water is a critique of America's view on immigration, as well as back up our argument by referencing some other films that share similar elements to Del Toro's story. First, let's meet some of the characters in this story. Eliza is a mute woman who struggles to communicate in a dominantly English-spoken world, similarly to that of newly arrived immigrants in America, as Rachel Hatzipanagos put in her Washington Post article, What You Didn't Understand About the Shape of Water. Eliza's coworker, Zelda, is a black woman who is part of the working class in the 60s, a time in which much police brutality struck out against black people fighting for their rights during the Civil Rights Movement. Eliza's neighbor, Giles, is an elderly gay artist who feels out of place and alone in his society. Eliza's boss, Strickland, is a wealthy white man with immense social power, both inside and out of the workplace, who uses his privilege to make sexual remarks towards Eliza, knowing she's mute and won't report him. And lastly, there is Eliza's love interest. Let's call him the Asset. The Asset is a creature that is imprisoned and beaten, who only wants to return back to his home. Similarly to that of many immigrants who get rounded up and locked in cages, wishing nothing more than to be freed and treated as people. Now that we've talked about who these characters are, let's dive into what a few of them represent. Let's start with the Asset. The Asset's physical appearance is that of an amphibian, a mix of a man and a fish. Some might say he looks alien-like. The intent to have this creature represent an alien in a physical and an emotional sense is intentional, for immigrants historically have been referred to as aliens, even as far to the extent of the Alien and Sedition Acts in the United States, declaring immigrants as aliens and creating restrictions on foreign-born people. Not only does the physicality of the Asset represent an immigrant in America, but he is restricted in his containment center and often is tortured by Strickland, this treatment being extremely symbolic to that of immigrants in containment centers and their treatment by ICE agents. Hatzipanagos says in her Washington Post article, the ripping of the creature from the Amazon echoes the harsh realities of colonialism. It is through the Asset's relationship with Eliza that he feels comfort and a sense of safety, for they both have shared experiences. The film Under the Same Moon highlights the bond between two immigrants in America who feel a sense of safety within each other, for they both have shared experiences of being outcasts and viewed as others in America. It is the same feeling that unites Eliza and the Asset, for being overlooked and viewed as others allows a shared place for their love to form. Now let's take a look at Strickland and what he represents. An article written by John M. Richardson talks about how Strickland's character is an embodiment of Trump and his beliefs. Strickland relies on his authority and position and power to mistreat those he sees as others, aka those who do not fit his perception of an ideal American. There is a scene in which Strickland tells a biblical story to Zelda and Eliza, and he mentions that God looks human like them. Even you, but probably more like me, Strickland says to Zelda, furthermore showing he does not view diversity in his beliefs. Strickland holds onto a baton of his that he uses as a form of torture, and in an early scene in the movie, he places it on the bathroom sink where Eliza and Zelda are cleaning, and he tells the women, "You can look, but you can't touch," showing that Del Toro clearly indicates this weapon of Strickland's serves as a phallic representation of a penis, which is associated with Strickland's masculinity. It is this same weapon that he uses to abuse the Asset, showing not only does he use his higher power to get away with beating his caged creature, but by using the baton we can conclude Strickland views himself as establishing his masculine dominance against the creature by beating him into submission. We see him abuse his power and further try to show off his masculinity when he tries hitting on Eliza, and as Richardson puts it, like Trump, Strickland boasts about his power to sexually assault women when he harasses silent Eliza with the line, "Bet I can make you squawk a little." Through these analyses, we see how Strickland is a representation of former United States President Trump, and how this culture-sanctioned superiority and racism only serve as blinders, which prevent Strickland from examining his flaws and dealing with his insecurities, as Alberta Nastasia Agi says in her article, Falling for the Amphibian Man, Fantasy, Otherness, and Auteurism in Del Toro's The Shape of Water. Now that we've discussed some key characters and what they represent, let's move on to the love and the relationship between Eliza and the Asset, and how it ties to America and its views on immigration and interracial marriages. Through the formation of the love between Eliza and the asset, we see Eliza's friends learn to understand and accept their love. Eliza's friends learn to accept her love with the asset, for they themselves know how it feels to find love as others in a world where they are outcast. We see Giles try to find love with the man from the pie shop who tells Giles to get out of the family-friendly restaurant for being a homosexual. And through the course of the film, through her dialogue, we hear about Zelda's failing marriage, so of course these two characters can empathize and support Eliza's love with the asset. As for Strickland, he himself is married to a white woman, but based on the way he silences her during sex and refers to still having his pussy finger, as he says when listing what fingers didn't get cut off, we can denote that he does not value his marriage, and in the end of the film when he shoots Eliza and the asset, we see his attempt to shut down their love. This love being between two people who are viewed as others is seen as immoral and wrong through Kirkland's perspective, reflecting America's standpoint on interracial marriage and arguably marriages between immigrants and natural-born white Americans. The film Warm Bodies is a film that tells a love story between a zombie and a human girl, in which case is seen as immoral. In the film, the white government official in power conditions their society to believe that zombies are the same as bonies, a different and more violent breed of zombies, in order to instill fear in their society and prevent any association between zombies and humans. This further proves how in The Shape of Water, the love between Eliza and the asset is instilled in Kirkland's morals as unlawful, highlighting this belief in American society that marriage between immigrant and citizen is something that has been frowned upon by laws such as the Alien and Seditions Act. So how does a group of others manage to become heroes and free the asset from entrapment? By using society's perception of them to their advantage. In his article, Guillermo del Toro's Latin American Monster in The Shape of Water is a pro-immigration statement, Manuel Betancourt acknowledges how these heroes form a ragtag band of misfits made up of communities and identities that are often dismissed, used being overlooked as a way to pull off their plan. Similarly, in the film Earth to Echo, a group of kids must avoid government officials to help an alien find its spaceship and help the alien return home. When first encountering the alien, the kids consider their options and dismiss telling adults their discovery because they're just kids and nobody believes them. The kids in the film band together and successfully free the alien and it returns home. Applying this idea of being overlooked aids in the explanation as to why our group of others in The Shape of Water successfully free the asset. They're invisible. In a world run by his fixed perspective, Strickland does not suspect Zelda or Eliza to have any involvements at first, showing how he doesn't acknowledge others to be seen as a threat or even as individuals with any capability of doing anything outside of stereotypes he has created. This group manages to bring the asset to the docks where sea meets land, signifying the journey of an immigrant who has made it to the border, and it is here where Eliza and the asset get shot. This impactful scene is a representation of border control and immigration into the United States, for it is oftentimes violence is met and lives are lost by impulsive actions deemed by U.S. officers. Shape of Water is more than a love story. It is a critique of people and systems of power who abuse others or who support such abuse with their silence, as Ken Derry phrased it in his review of the film. We are given clear indicators of a segregation between diversity and whiteness in this society, leading to an imbalance of social power that leads to the mistreatment of members from various communities, and as Derry says, it is intriguing that a film so enamored of fantasy should be so fully on the side of reality. Through this film, Del Toro has provided cinematic elements that allow audiences to sympathize with an amphibian creature who wishes to return home from facing brutality and entrapment. And through his auteurism, we have analyzed how this is a metaphorical representation of the issues with immigration in the United States, and if sympathy can be had for a mythical creature, perhaps sympathy and action can be held for real humans facing the exact same treatment in our country.